You're listening to the Learn Spanish con Salsa podcast. Just a quick heads up before we get started with this episode, I wanted to let you know about a free resource for listeners of the Learn Spanish con Salsa podcast. That means you. If you are planning your next trip abroad, or if you're just getting back out into the world again, maybe you're going to an event or to a festival or to a meetup, that you need to be prepared for what to say when you meet someone for the first time. Download our free Spanish conversation guide so that you'll be prepared to have a conversation with anyone that you meet for the first time in Spanish. We give you a list of the most common questions that you'll be asked and that you may want to ask someone when you meet them for the first time, along with the responses so that you can be prepared when you have that conversation in less than 30 minutes. So to get your free conversation guide, just go to SpanishConversationGuide.com. Simple, right? SpanishConversationGuide.com to download your quick guide to prep for your first Spanish conversation.
Bienvenidos.
Welcome to the Learn Spanish con Salsa podcast.
Here's your host,
Certified Language Coach,
Tamara Marie.
Hola, bienvenidos al episodio 226. Welcome to episode 226 of the Learn Spanish con Salsa podcast. So if you've been a long-time listener, then you know one of our favorite things to do on the show is to break down lyrics from some classic and contemporary Latin music so that we can better learn Spanish by using some of these songs that we already love to listen to. So in this episode, we are going to be breaking down the lyrics of the song Baile Inolvidable by Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio, or better known as Bad Bunny. And in case you aren't familiar, which I find that hard to believe, but if you don't know who Bad Bunny is, he is actually a Puerto Rican singer and songwriter. He's actually really responsible for making the genre of reggaetón from Puerto Rico very, very popular, especially in recent years. Since 2016, his songs have been streamed billions of times. He has headlined at Coachella, and he's had back-to-back #1 Billboard albums. Now, while he's known for reggaeton, the song Baile Inolvidable is actually a salsa song. So it's a little bit different from his usual style, but I think that you'll find it really interesting to hear some of the lyrics of the song. And as always, I'm going to break down, after explaining the lyrics, how you can actually use some of the phrases from the song in everyday conversation and really the things that you can't, right? Because everything in a song really shouldn't be used in conversation. But unlike, I would say, Bad Bunny's normal songs, this song is a little bit different, like I said, because it's a salsa. That genre is a little bit older than reggaeton, and it does tend to have a little bit different subject matter and lyrics than like your typical reggaeton. So you will find probably more in the song than your typical Bad Bunny song, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to review it on the podcast, because it's super popular right now, but it also does have lots of things that you can use. As always, don't forget to check out our website, learnspanishconsalsa.com/226 for episode 226. There you will find the show notes for this episode, the lyrics, and the breakdown of the examples that I'm talking about in today's show. You can also feel free to check out our YouTube channel. I do actually display, if you're listening to the audio version and you want to see the lyrics on the screen, you can go to our YouTube channel as well. We will also have that link on our website at learnspanishconsalsa.com. All right, so let's get started with breaking down the lyrics of Baile Inolvidable. So first, let's talk about the meaning of the title of the song. So baile, which if you listen to Learn Spanish con Salsa, you probably already know. Baile is dance, right? So bailar is the verb to dance, but baile is dance. And inolvidable means unforgettable. So the title of the song means unforgettable dance. So it's a really beautiful song, but we already have a lesson that we can pull from just the song title. So olvidable comes from the verb olvidar, right? Which in this case, olvidable means forgettable. So olvidar is to forget, olvidable is forgettable, and inolvidable is unforgettable. So the first thing I want you to pull from this song is that if you see this prefix in Spanish, in or en, it's very similar to un in English. So For example, we have olvidable, forgettable, inolvidable, unforgettable. We have feliz, happy, infeliz, unhappy. Capaz, capable. Incapaz means incapable. Visible means visible. Invisible means invisible. So again, in English, it's spelled the same way, but the pronunciation is different. So hopefully you find it helpful. If you come across a word that starts with IN in Spanish, you kind of have an idea that it's probably going to be the opposite of something, right? So that's just a really good rule of thumb to use anytime you come across new vocabulary. All right, so now let's get to the lyrics of the song. So I'm going to break down the lyrics line by line. I'm going to go through the Spanish, then give you the English translation. And then at the end, we'll go through any specific phrases that would be useful in daily conversation. So let's get started with the lyrics of the song. So the first line is, Pensaba que contigo iba a envejecer. Pensaba que contigo iba a envejecer. So this means I thought I'd grow old with you. So literally, pensaba que is I thought, or I used to think. Contigo, with you, iba a envejecer. I would grow old. So this envejecer is the word that means to get older, to grow old. Then it says, en otra vida, en otro mundo, podrá ser. En otra vida, en otro mundo, podrá ser. So maybe in another life or in another world, it could be. So you can kind of get an idea that there's some regret, right? It's like, okay, maybe in another lifetime, this could have been the case. So en otra vida, en otro mundo, in another world, podrá ser. So this podrá is the verb poder in the future tense. So it's something that could be. And this is always, poder is almost always irregular verb. So you can see instead of poderá, it's podrá. Okay, so it's kind of shortened there. But he's just kind of speculating, like maybe if things were different in another lifetime, this could be the case. En esta solo queda irme un día. En esta solo queda irme un día. So in this one, all that's left for me is to leave someday. All right, so this solo queda is like, that's all that's left, right? So quedar is a verb like to leave, to remain, to stay. So he's saying like in this situation, right, this is the only thing that's left for me. Y solamente verte en el atardecer. Y solamente verte en el atardecer. So that is, and just to see you at sunset. Si me ven solo y triste, no me hablen. Si me ven solo y triste, no me hablen. So if you see me alone and sad, don't talk to me. Okay, no me hablen. So he's talking to like a group here, right? So he's like, look, if you guys see me and I look sad and I'm alone, don't talk to me. Like, leave me alone. Then he says it again. Si me ven solo y triste, soy culpable. Soy culpable. So if you see me alone and sad, it's my fault. So he's taking the blame for what I'm assuming went wrong after this unforgettable dance. But let's see. La vida es una fiesta que un día termina. La vida es una fiesta que un día termina. So life is a party that eventually ends, right? It ends one day. So, you know, he's, again, reflecting on just kind of the fact that life is short, you should have fun, but all that comes to an end at some point. So clearly he is thinking back on a past situation with some regret in this song. Then he says twice here, y fuiste tú mi baile inolvidable. Y fuiste tú mi baile inolvidable. So, and you were my unforgettable dance. So it's important in this to note that this fuiste, it's actually interesting in Spanish because this is the past tense of two verbs, but it's the same, right? So it could be ir or ser. In this case, it's ser. You were, y fuiste, and you were tú mi baile inolvidable. And the tú is added here just for emphasis, like, and it was you. You were my unforgettable dance. Because as you know, in Spanish, we really don't need to use that subject pronoun. Just by saying fuiste, I know I'm saying you were, but he's emphasizing it here. just to say, look, no, it was you. So you can see he's clearly probably not with this person. He was thinking at the beginning of the verse, I think I'll grow old with you. I guess it didn't turn out that way, but he said this dance that he had was unforgettable. So he says that twice. And then this is when it kind of goes into, I believe like the chorus starts here. And then he says, mientras uno está vivo. Mientras uno está vivo. So while we're alive, or while one is living, uno debe amar lo más que pueda. Uno debe amar lo más que pueda. So one should love as much as one can, or in English we probably say we should love as much as we can. So again, he's saying like, this is something you should do. So this is the verb deber, deber amar. So uno debe amar. So one should love lo más que pueda. So this lo más que is like as much as possible, right? Like the absolute most. Lo más que pueda, and that's the verb poder. And this is going to take the subjunctive form. As you can see here, it's irregular, pueda, because it's sort of a suggestion or something he's saying should be the case. And then repeats here, pensaba que contigo iba a envejecer, en otra vida, en otro mundo podrá ser. En esta solo queda irme un día y ver pa'l cielo a ver si te veo caer. Y ver pa'l cielo a ver si te veo caer. All right, so this one we're going to break down a little bit. So we're taking it in parts. So the first part he says, y ver pa'l cielo. So, and to look up at the sky. So this is the idea of like looking up at the stars, right? Kind of pondering. But this pal, so in Spanish, this is really short for para el cielo. So, y ver para el cielo, like I'm looking towards the sky, right? But as you know, if you've been listening to Learn Spanish con Salsa, you know that in Caribbean Spanish, we like to cut words short. So this y ver para el cielo becomes y ver pa'l cielo, all right? So it's really quick. And then he says, a ver si te veo caer. A ver si te veo caer. All right, so that's to see if I catch you falling. Okay, so a ver is like, oh, to see, right? To see what's going to happen. Si te veo. So that te is you, and the veo is I see, right? So, and this caer is like to fall. So again, this is one of those situations where it's good to be familiar with direct and indirect objects. It can be a little bit tricky, but in the context of this song, we know he's talking directly to this person. So he's saying, a ver si te veo caer. So if I can see you falling, right? Falling from the sky like a star, right? So he's looking up at the sky and thinking about her. All right. So, and again, it kind of repeats again. Si me ven sola y triste, no me hablen. Si me ven sola y triste, soy culpable. So if you see me sad and alone, don't talk to me. It's my fault, right? And he talks about life being a party again. So this song has a lot of repetition. And then it goes right into el coro, or the chorus, which is probably the most memorable part of the song. So if you have heard this song before, you probably are definitely familiar with this line if you couldn't understand the other ones. I will say, listening to this song, Bad Bunny, he usually doesn't enunciate very clearly. It's a very like, I don't want to say lazy, but like the way he speaks, even like singing in a song like this, the words kind of tend to flow together, and just the way he speaks, it might be hard to delineate each and every word. So hopefully this lyrics breakdown is helpful to you. But as we go to the chorus, I'm sure you've heard this part of the song if you heard nothing else, because there's other people joining in. It's not just Bad Bunny. And he says, no te puedo olvidar. So it's like, nope, I can't forget you. So that no te puedo is like, no, I can't. So in English, that second no is like, I can't forget you. But the first one is like, no, I can't forget you, right? So it's adding some emphasis there. So that's why you hear the no twice. So no te puedo olvidar. So that no te puedo, talking again about you. So in puedo is I can't, right? So no te puedo, I can't. Olvidar is to forget, all right? So no te puedo, I can't olvidar. Okay, so that te is talking about you. Again, he's talking directly to this person. He's saying, I can't forget you. And then he just kind of repeats that. No, no te puedo borrar. No, no te puedo borrar. So that's, I can't erase you. You know, it's almost like this idea of I can't erase you from my memory. It kind of makes you think of that movie, and this is a tangent, but there's a movie called Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, where Jim Carrey stars, and I think as a character, he's trying to get this company to erase his memories of his ex-girlfriend because they're so painful. It is something similar to this, right? So you think about, I can't erase you, like I can't get rid of you from my memory, from my life, from a part of my experience. And then he explains why. He said, tú me enseñaste a querer. Tú me enseñaste a querer. So, tú, so that's you, me enseñaste. So taught me. So you taught me a querer. So you taught me to love. Then it says, me enseñaste a bailar. You taught me how to dance. Okay, so, and that's what he says over and over again in the chorus. So it's like, no, I can't forget you. I can't erase you. You taught me how to love. You taught me how to dance. And it just repeats over and over again in the chorus. So that is pretty much the first verse and the chorus of the song. Again, it goes on a little bit more from there. But I want to actually switch to before... well, actually, I'm not going to go through all the lyrics. What I'm going to do is I'm going to post these on our website so that you can actually listen to the song and also follow along with the lyrics. But what I want to do now is explain which of these lyrics can actually be used in your conversations in Spanish, because again, it's nice to be able to sing along with the song and to know the words, but I want you to get something out of this that you can actually use when you're having conversations in Spanish. So the first one that is really, really common is this use of the verb pensar in the past tense to talk about something that you used to think or that you thought about in the past. So that's pensaba que. Pensaba que. So this is something you can definitely use in conversation. So for example, you could say, pensaba que esa película sería aburrida, pero me encantó. So I thought that film was going to be boring, but I loved it. So again, you can kind of see here that the idea is that you used to think something until something else happened, right? So it means that there was a change in what you thought. So in the song, he says, pensaba que contigo iba a envejecer. So I used to think, or I thought that with you, I would grow old, or I would grow old with you. So this was a belief he had in the past that changed. So it's really useful in that sense. Another example, pensaba que el evento empezaba a las 3, no a las 2. So I thought the event would start at 3, not at 2. So obviously a person probably got there late. It's probably like 2:30 and they're like, hey, I thought the event was going to start earlier. Another one talking about like your past and things you used to think when you were younger. Example is, cuando era niña, pensaba que los adultos lo sabían todo, pero ahora sé que no es así. So when I was young, I thought that adults knew everything, but now I see that it's not true, right? Things are not that way. So pensaba que is a good phrase when you're talking about past beliefs. Then we have solo queda. Solo queda or solo me queda. So this is from the verb quedar. And it's a way to say like this is all that's left, or to mark just like the last step, like this is the only thing that's left. So for example, I could say solo me queda mezclar y el horno. Solo me queda mezclar y al horno. So all that's left for me to do is to mix it and then put it in the oven. So the only thing that's left for me, so this me queda is left for me to do, right? So the only thing that's left for me is to mix it, and al horno is like to the oven and put it in the oven. Another example, if you're talking about multiple things, solo quedan 2 manzanas. Mañana tengo que comprar más. Solo quedan 2 manzanas. Mañana tengo que comprar más. So there's only 2 apples left. Tomorrow I have to go buy more. Or if you're talking about time, you could say, solo quedan 10 minutos para el tren. Vamos rápido. So there's only 10 minutes left before the train gets here. Let's go quickly, right? Let's move it. Another good phrase from the song that you can definitely use in conversations is no me hables or no me hablen. So you might remember from the song, he was saying, si me ven soli triste, no me hablan. So if you see me sad and alone, don't talk to me. So you can use that. And this is actually the command tense or the imperative, mandato, however you want to call it in Spanish. This is when you're giving a direct instruction and you're like, hey, don't do this, do this. So in this case, this no me hablen is really talking to a group of people. But if you're talking to one person, you would say no me hables. All right. So it's like the negative imperative, and it can be used playfully, right? It doesn't mean that you're like giving a really stern command. It can be used in a playful way. So here's some examples. You could say, no me hables de donas cuando estoy de dieta. So don't talk to me about donuts when I'm on a diet. Or chicos, no me hablan antes del primer café. Don't talk to me before I have my coffee, all right? My first coffee. So this is probably someone who drinks a lot of coffee. So again, it can be used to just kind of set boundaries and let people know like, hey, really, it's not a good time. Another phrase from the song that you can use is no puedo olvidar, which is saying, I can't forget. So in the song, he's saying he can't forget this girl and the dance, but you can use this in more casual ways and also to talk about memories that were really impactful for you. So for example, you could say, el atardecer en Cartagena no lo puedo olvidar. So I cannot forget the sunset in Cartagena, which actually is true. I've been to Cartagena, Colombia, and it's on the coast, and it's a very beautiful place, and it's really, really beautiful sunsets. I could also say, no puedo olvidar a mi abuela, sus consejos me guían. So I cannot forget about my grandmother. Her advice guides me, so still guides me to this day. And lastly, you could use me enseñaste a. So that's taught me to do something. I was like, you taught me to. So for example, I could say, me enseñaste a ahorrar y ahora pago mi cena yo misma. So you taught me how to save, like how to save my money, and now I pay for my own dinner, right? If you're talking about third person, right? You're talking about someone else who taught you. You're not talking to that person directly. You can say, or even something else, right? It doesn't have to be a person. It could be something you learned using, I don't know, YouTube or however people, ChatGPT, something that you learned from a third party. So, for example, you say, esa app me enseñó a organizar mi día. So that application or that program taught me how to organize my day. Okay, so it also can mean show you how to. So enseñar can be to show or to teach. All right, so those are 5 phrases that you can use from the song Baile Inolvidable by Bad Bunny. So just as a quick review, we have pensaba que, I thought that, or I used to think that. Solo queda, what's left, what's remaining, the final steps before you get something done. No me hables, don't talk to me. No puedo olvidar, I can't forget. And me enseñaste a, you taught me how to. All right, so I hope that you have enjoyed this episode, that you found it useful, and that there's something in this episode that maybe was new to you that you didn't know before. And hopefully you'll go back and listen to the song Baile Inolvidable now that you know exactly what he's saying. And if you want to get the full lyrics, go to learnspanishconsalsa.com/226 for episode 226, and you'll get the show notes. You'll be able to listen to the song and follow along with the lyrics. As always, I hope that something that you heard in this episode will take you one step closer from Spanish beginner to bilingual. Hasta la próxima.
Thank you for listening to the Learn Spanish con Salsa podcast at learnspanishconsalsa.com.